I did catch little glimpses. My mom was on welfare and food stamps and hated the government. And I started sort of sussing out the folks that were relying on the government actually hated the government. We lived in a house that was my grandmother's second house that she was supposed to rent out, but my mom was sort of a mess, so we got to flop there. And it started to dawn on me that the people my mother hates the most are her mom, who provide a house,
exactly,
and the government, who provide the cheese.
Yeah.
So there's two people on this planet, or two entities, that are actually keeping us alive, and those are the only two people you hate.
Of course.
She didn't hate Menachem Begin. I didn't hear any ill words to any Ayatollahs or anybody that. She hated her mom and the government. And I was sort of 9, kind of going, well, aren't these the two people that are kind of keeping us afloat over here? Why so much rage against the
That's
two
always
entities?
the way it is.
Of course, it can't. I also learned it can go no other way.
Exactly. That's exactly right. You hate the people you're dependent upon and the people you wrong. If you sin against people, you hate them, which is one of the reasons everyone in Washington hates like working class white men whose salaries on average have declined 11% over 30 years. Can you imagine that? They're the people whose life expectancy is shrinking, and yet they've got all the privilege. We hate them. They're the problem. Really?
Well, I have yelled on my podcast before, and I'm sure it wouldn't go over very well in some circles in Hollywood, but they go, white men, they're responsible for slavery. They're responsible for all atrocities. And I kind of go, yeah, but we're also responsible for everything. So it's sort of unfair. The Golden Gate Bridge, that is white man's work as well. So it's like, I get it. If you're out there doing everything, you're going to have a couple of misfires.
But it's so weird, since you grew up in this, again, the same world I did. Like, the one thing you were not allowed to do, as value-free and judgment-free as 1979 Southern California was, you were not allowed to attack groups of people on the basis of their race. Like, that was just not allowed, at least where I lived. Like, I never heard anyone do it, ever. And now, and it was the left that enforced that rule, which is a fine rule as far, you know what I mean? I'm okay with that. I don't think you should judge people on things they're not responsible for, they can't control. Now, that is like the currency of the very same people. They're like, well, the real problem is this racial group because of their race. It's like, wait, I thought that was the definition of racism. I'm losing track here.
Well, as I'm fond of saying, there's never been a better time in this country to be an actual racist.
Right.
Because you'll just get lumped in with me and Tucker Carlson.
We do segments on the show all the time where, like, look, just to be clear, racism is wrong because judging people on things they're not responsible for is wrong, and group punishment and collective guilt are wrong. They're the opposite of everything that makes us America. That's wrong. And my producer, I never text, Google myself. My producer will text me and be like, there's another piece calling you a racist.
Again,
it's so Orwellian.
If you want to hide with half the population who has been labeled racist, you can just, and you're an actual racist.
It's pretty
You can
funny.
blend right in. The thing, I always marvel a little bit. I marvel at the lack of self-awareness. Like,
Yes.
I will turn on your show or I'll turn on the news and I'll see the black middle-aged professor from Princeton, and 7 inches to his left is a white guy in his 60s, and he'll go, old white guys. Again, this is the problem. And I'm thinking, there's an example of an old white guy who's not coming into the studio later to do his own show and may hear this on the radio. He's sitting right next to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made a few fat guy jokes and beyond, but I rarely do it with a obese person sitting next to me.
The best is when the old white guy himself does
He's
it.
nodding.
Right, or
he's
says,
nodding.
so the problem is, and you really get the feeling what he's really saying is, eat me last.
Right.
You know what I mean? When the revolution comes, just remember, we welcome our new insect overlords and look forward to toiling in their sugar caves. I mean, that's what they're really saying.
Love The Simpsons. And once in a while, my wife, who's very Italian and very much in love with her son, who you'll probably be meeting later on today because she's pulling him out of school to meet you.
How
He's
old
a
is
big
he?
fan. He's 12.
Oh, good for him.
He every once in a while she turns to me and goes, we have a white male son who's going to be a white old guy one day, God willing. This campaign of going after this, especially when you have children, neighbors, a parent, half the people that are railing against old white men being evil have a dad who's old and white. It seems like a bizarre strategy for me. It also seems a little insincere because if you really think that's the problem, are you really voicing it the way you're voicing it? Or are you just trying to get a little, it's turned into a Chuck E. Cheese where you can get the tickets and they're redeemable for a stuffed animal. And you're just running around, and the more you yell about sexism or racism or old white men, more tickets come out of the skee ball machine. So you just hop on CNN or MSNBC. You start talking. You start calling everyone racist. You say that a comment was a racist. It was driven by race. We have a society that where the cops are racist and there's systemic racism. School to prison. You yell school to prison pipeline. Whole bunch of tickets come out, and it's all redeemable. And next thing you know, you just got a whole pile of tickets because you ran your goddamn mouth about stuff you didn't believe in. You don't think it's true. There's no way they think that's the society we live in.
Whatever fad is current, they're fully on board with it. You got to wonder, though, if there are long-term implications of this one. I mean, it does kind of make people hate each other if you keep talking. This is why we didn't used to talk this way, because the stakes are just too high.
Well, it is. I'm angry. If you are attempting to help a group, and that group could be young black males, or it could be females in general, or you could pick any tribe and any group, or any individual, and you, as a person who's in a position of authority, whether it be a parent or a politician, work overtime trying to convince that person there's a target on their back.
Exactly.
As far as society goes, there is nothing worse that you could do in terms of that person's progression in this society. You could go full Kathy Bates and hobble them.
That's exactly right.
It would be much. I would much rather one of my children lose the ability to use their legs or legs and arms than have them convinced that society was against them, that the cops were against them, that they had a target on their back, that if they ever went on a job interview and didn't get the gig, it was because of their ethnicity, the color of their skin, their sexual proclivities. You have officially ruined that person that you claim. Every time you open your mouth, all you do is say, I am a champion for this person's rights. I'm a champion for this person. You hobble them, you destroy them, you ruin them.
I think that is such a wise observation, and I think that all the time. What would happen if I did to my kids what the Democratic Party does to African Americans? My kids would be in rehab.